Greetings and salutations. My name is Icy King for those of you who don't know. But for those of you who do know, hi, welcome back. You're getting a little bit of a different side to dear old Zeisty today. Okay? So, I would like to apologize in advance. I'm a little bit of a flippant mood today. So, you're sort of just getting my little, what do you call it? PNG tuber model just yapping at you, and a barely edited video, I've decided. Because I'm tired. I'm a little bit tired. I'm in a flippant mood. Whatever. But I will be warning some folks right up front. This video is about a Great God Grove AU. Right? So for folks of you who don't know about Great God Grove, or who are not, following me exactly for this, since I've never really spoken about it, I've made like a silly recap series for Murder Drones. I posted a trailer for a Sonic.exe comic dub. I've posted like a few little streams. I have a different video where I talked about a different AU. I made animatics. I do whatever I want here. So, some folks may not be following me exactly for this. They may unsubscribe from me for this, because I'm not doing what they want. However, I will point out I don't care. The target audience of this video is, to be truthful, me and those who care. So, if you don't know about Great God Grove, it is a game by Limbo Lane. Right? You can either watch a playthrough of it or play it for yourself. For the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking about spoilers for the game. And I'm going to be talking like you are someone who knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because at this point, if you're still here, you either don't give a damn about spoilers, or you already know exactly what I'm talking about, which is perfect, because I don't have to explain anything to you. I will also warn you that there will be topics of sickness / illness, death. I don't censor myself in saying words like that, because, to be honest with you, I don't care. And I don't talk like that. I don't censor my words. Kill, destroy, kill. I only say unalive when it's funny. And, well, if I remember to bring it up, there is likely going to be vomit. Toxic vomit. It's just an overall bad time. So, here. Good. My AU is an infection AU. Yeah? I really like that sort of thing. For some reason. I've got one other for a game known as In Stars in Time. I've got a comic dub of that. And then this video isn't about that, though. It's about the Great God Grove one. To be expected. Alright, let me gather my thoughts a little bit. I've got notes on it to look through, too, so. Yeah. Never mind. Hold on, I'm pulling them up. When I should probably also warn you. If it sounds like I'm across the room, it's likely because I am across the room. I'm walking around instead of sitting down. This is based off me brainstorming this stuff. If I sound a bit ragged, that's why. Did I say that? I don't remember. Yeah. Alright. This is an infection AU I refer to as Capochin Zero, or alternatively, Sickness of the Grove, in which Capochin lands up catching a sickness so new and mysterious that it doesn't even have a name, and Inspector ends up quarantining him in the God Complex once it's clear he's coming down with something. In the meantime, while he recovers, Patty is temporarily put in his place to lead, which is a bad idea since she is not fit to be in his role. But Inspector had no time to think and thus assigned him that role anyhow. However, instead of getting better, Capochin gets worse. He grows sicker and sicker, with Inspector growing more and more anxious over his health, until the end of the game, we're so desperate to save his second in command, Inspector throws Capochin through the rift to keep him alive. Capochin lands up becoming the god of illness and loyalty, later referred to as Capochin. You have to deal with this model now, because I love it. His dominion is over the vast different ways one can be loyal, and to some degree, the very sickness that nearly killed him. So, this now means you are being forced to deal with my Capochin model. A, because I want to use it. B, because I want to show it to people. And C, look at him. He's a very good visual in case you don't know what he looks like. You know what? Minimal editing. You putting a picture of him up, of his reference up here. Here he is. My pretty sickly boy. What? Yeah. It's an infection AU. But I really intentionally do not focus on like classic infection AU staples. A, because I don't know, we keep doing it a lot. I don't need to do it. I think you know. And also, I don't want it. I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it. So instead of focusing on like, here's the inventory, here's the notebook, here's this guy's stats, here's how he's doing. Oh, he's dead. He's sick. He's dying. They're throwing up. Yeah. Like focusing on the psychology of infection AUs, more so than the actual infection AU staples. So, some of these notes are a little bit outdated, technically speaking, because I was brainstorming a little bit more. So if my throat sounds like a bit scratchy, I keep bringing this up. If my voice like cracks, if I don't sound so good, that's probably why. But yeah. This is a document I could be sharing with people, but I really want to talk about this so I can like bring up other things. So, the general notes. Patty, being the temporary leader of the Busy Boys. I honestly just picked their name out of a top hat. I'm also not going verbatim here because I don't care. But I do think it'd be interesting to derail what happens to her in GGG a bit. However, with Inspector saying some shit like, I don't want to hear about Pete until he solves a real mystery in the game, it does feel kinda weird to have this be the case. Since they're trying to look into things she probably shouldn't be, relating to the quote-unquote goal and all that. Though I do think Inspector could make that decision on a whim, then force himself to continue with it because, oh, different tone. Though I do think Inspector could make that decision on a whim, then force himself to continue with it because he's Inspector. Plus, with Patty bending under the pressure of trying to be a good temper boss, he'd easily wrap him around his finger and work around that. The busy boys look up to Patty now, which they naturally find a bit overwhelming and scary. Because no one really leads like Capochin. No one barks like him either. And Patty is just a little guy. She doesn't even really fit into Capochin's spare uniform all that well. At least he has the God Pope to confide in, even if that could very well be going against Inspector's orders. They like Cool Hat, and she doesn't want to stop talking to them. Capochin is naturally very displeased with being replaced, as he, feels he is being replaced. Especially with Patty, of all people? The youngest of the busy boys? And that means there's someone else wearing his spare uniform? He is so mad, full of complete and utter betrayal of being replaced of Patty, of all of them. He does later attempt to attack Patty due to being unable to really think straight and being irritated for reasons, but only manages one clean punch in the face before Inspector has to hold him back. Patty uses she, he, they pronouns. Those are the pronouns I refer to him as outside of Capochin Zero as well, but I wanted to note that here. Transgender Patty is a very good headcanon. I will not deny that. However, I'm projecting. Those are my reasonings for it. Anyway, this AU is meant to delve into the psychology aspect of the concept rather than classic infection AU staples. There is currently no desire to include later mutations for the sickness. There is some lore on the sickness itself. Its origins are intentionally meant to be unknown. No one should be able to pin it down before Capochin, was infected with it. The sickness is so new it has no name, nor any treatments or cure, though Inspector later notes, some of the symptoms seem to match other illnesses. With Capochin being patient zero, he likely could have chalked up earlier symptoms to other factors or ignore them entirely. How long he's been infected before any symptoms became more obvious are also unknown, on account of the previous note. Even worse, Capochin had no idea he was infected, so he was walking around and infecting other people. Uh-oh. It may take some time before anyone can find out what the earliest symptoms are and how to detect them. Alright. Begins experiencing constant ringing tone in head. May additionally start spacing out / dissociating. Capochin personally begins to start smacking his head and grumbling at the ringing tone to get out, despite the fact that it can't, of course. The ringing tone is somewhat as though he has tinnitus. This AU is inspired by that. Tinnitus. I've got a ringing tone in my head. Sort of like that. But I don't smack my head to get it out. I'm just stuck with that. Anyway, the sickness attacks the sinuses and mouth, making it very hard to breathe, speak, and eat / drink. He could very well experience drooling for some reason, though he may stop upon being dehydrated. His mouth generally becomes very sore and begins leaking He begins leaking gloopy greenish discharge from the nose. I don't need to imply what that is. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Boogers. It's not. He starts losing pigmentation over time, so far as to lose blush spots on the cheeks, if they were there at that point. I don't know why I included that note. I have a headcanon that trained folk have like blush spots on their cheeks. Sort of like appear. They're not born with them, they sort of appear on their cheeks as they get older. For Capochin, they would fade away. His hair and his fur / skin, his tongue, they sort of just pale, is what I'm saying. They pale very much. Capochin's body temperature elevates, leaving him increasingly irritated and making it hard to think straight through his brain, boiling in his skull. This is when he would have attempted to attack Patty. He eventually begins losing energy more and more, losing desire to speak, eat, drink, or even move. May lose weight and consciousness. Continues losing pigmentation. Without being forced into ascension, Capochin could very well succumb to the sickness, dying both from it and starving in his sleep. Did I mention the starvation? There's the starvation. Sorry. On the topic of forced ascension, these notes are not complete, but I'll give you them anyway. Ascending into godhood can be rough if you're not prepared for or even chosen for it. Being forced into ascension through external factors can be even worse. For Capochin / Capochin, his ascension was basically the equivalent of being tossed into a blender. So, I know that some folks may not be keeping up with there's Hugo Limbo and Tumblr. Some folks may just be having fun, have fun, play toys, and not pay attention to whatever Hugo is saying. I am a little bit, so I'm incorporating in this a little bit into what I'm about to be saying. So, every 33 years, the rift opens. And every 33 years, the gods have to work together to close it. And sometimes, or miraculously, if a mortal does something so noteworthy or important or whatever, that it lands up with them ascending into. Let me rephrase that a little bit. Certain individuals are elected into godhood if they do something so astounding, right? Like maybe leading your people from a bad situation, being so eloquent that you bring the gods together. Anything else along those lines, you may be eligible to be elected into godhood, It's not every 33 years a new god is elected. It's just that every 33 years the rift needs to be closed. From what I can guess, based off a king being the eloquent god, the gods know what they're going to be going into Ascension. Like we're voting Click-Clack, the god of storytelling and teamwork. Vespius Green, the god of love and mirth. Abigail. Alhauzo, I know how to pronounce his name now. Huzzlemug. Miss Mitternach. She's just God. Okay. She's just God. I got everyone. Inspector, God of leadership. Huh. It's funny that I nearly left him out. All things considered. Sorry. Yeah. Now the thing is, everyone prior to being ascending, likely, already knows what god they are. Just based off my observations of being voted as the eloquent god, not the god of eloquence. King does things a little bit differently, it seems, and I love her for it. But yeah, Capochin is, forced ascension. I like to think that through forced ascension, if you are forced into ascending, basically, you don't know what type of god you even are yet. You are a type of god, but you don't know. You didn't go into that knowing. You didn't go into that fully prepared or anything. You just sort of went into it. It sort of fucks with the guy, right? So being forced into ascension, Capochin here doesn't even know that he's the god of illness or loyalty. Doesn't even know he's the god of illness and loyalty. He sort of has to figure that out on his own. Capochin's ascension into Capochin was, or is, whatever, Inspector's desperate attempt in keeping him alive. However, Capochin was super out of it upon being thrown in, and thus had no awareness of his own ascension until after it happened. He was not very lucid. The closer and closer the end of the game it got, he eventually just sort of loses consciousness, as I mentioned. So sort of not able to focus very well, irritated a lot of the time because of very elevated body temperature, stuff like that. He's not doing too hot. He's not doing too great. So he had no say in it. Dexter feels conflicted about this decision after he descends back into a mortal and chooses to stay that way permanently. Sorry, my voice cut out. Yeah, my actual voice cut out. Whoop. However, if asked, he'd say he'd do it again. There's a bird outside. What are you doing? Oh, be free. Oh, yeah, you're cute. Okay. I just don't want a bird being adorable and chirping on my windowsill while I'm talking. Alright. However, if asked, he'd say he'd do it again to keep Capochin alive if presented with the opportunity. That being said, Capochin was in no way chosen, elected, or even remotely prepared for ascension, and Hector feels guilty for essentially forcing that upon him. Yeah, he lands up not visiting Capochin much at first because of that. Capochin's ascension does sort of cause a stir for not being very, traditional, you could say. Even worse, that if you consider putting him through the rift and becoming mortal again means a high risk of dying. In an alternate route for Capochin Zero, or otherwise known as Sickness of the Grove. Did I tell you that already? I probably did. Yeah, if that doesn't happen, Capochin just dies. He just dies. After the rift closes, likely. That's it. Dead. I know I sound very oh, dead, that's it. Wrap it up, everybody. We're good. But no. I just don't know what else to tell you. That's just a very tragic and painful thing. He dies. The sickness overtakes everybody. Everyone in the grove probably dies because of the sickness, and nobody's doing anything about it, I guess. I guess people are doing things about it. It's just, well, I'll explain a little bit more if I remember. Actually, I'll write that down now. Hold on, let me type that out. Remember to talk that Very quiet moment. If you're listening to this in the background, how you doing? How you doing? What you drawing? Yeah? You like this? I hope you enjoy. You like this, baby? Hey! How you doing? Anyway, let's focus. Or I should focus. Alright. I already read that about his ascension. I think Capochow does grapple with not being a quote-unquote people's pick in regards to his ascension. And this is suggested. Maybe some folks who are still angry at Hector for good reason may not even trust Capochow because he is the traitor god's minion and chosen by the traitor who nearly killed all the other gods, essentially keeping Capochow trapped in the loop of thinking he has to work for approval. I do see Capochow's ascension, or Capochow himself, being blamed for the quote-unquote sudden sickness going around the grove, when in actuality it was just him unwittingly infecting people when he was mortal. Regardless, he could view that as an opportunity to fix that fuck up, as I wrote, and prove himself by doing something about it because he's a god and can be useful to everyone now. It'll be easy. Right? So, yeah, Capochow is sort of the driving force for fixing this whole sickness thing. He's like, he fucked up colossally. And he wants to, like, prove that he's useful and do this whole shit. I don't even think the Grove was exactly prepared for any of this sickness stuff. They probably don't have the infrastructure for that shit. So Capochow over here sort of just wants to prove himself that, he can be useful. You know, he may have been forced into ascension and had no say in it, and he wasn't elected into it, but he can be useful. Watch. So he's sort of the driving force for that. Without him at the helm being the driving force for that, I don't think everything goes as well. I definitely think it goes well enough without him, but not as well as it could go with him. You know what I mean? So in the alternate route where Capochin dies, they don't have him at the helm, so it doesn't go as well. I have notes here that just says the place is in shambles, the heavens have been shaken, people are sick, people are gabbing about an extra god in the pantheon. Hector's trying to wrangle himself into visiting Capochow, but can't at first. It's a general mess. Here's where it gets interesting for me personally. I don't know why I said that, but I did. After the adrenaline rush that was the end of Great God Grove, Capochow's first weeks as a god were spent recovering from the sickness and the forced ascension into godhood. He was very low energy and found himself sleeping a lot. Yeah, he couldn't talk much either. That being said, I just want to. I thought I heard something. That being said, I do want to mention here and now because I was thinking about it earlier this morning. And it made me like sort of double over, hands on my knees, thinking, "Oh God, what are we doing here?" Staring at my goosebump socks. Staring into the face of Slappy. Right, so in Great God Grove, if you remember, Capochin has a line to Hector, I believe, if I remember correctly. I just a 7 hour stream. I dissociated a little bit. I need to go over everything again, review my quote unquote non existent notes But he said something there, right? I was thinking about it. I was like, wait, if Capuchow's Capuchow, he can't really, and he's like having a hard time even being aware that he's existing right now. I think that pulling it close, the rift close, because he's not thinking about it in the moment, but he's like, oh, well, closing the rift. Yeah, because that's my. I get that. I guess that's my job now. Whatever. But the first word that I imagine him as saying is just Hector. Or just Hector. That's it. That's the first word he says. I bet thinking about it, they don't remember. I bet they won't even remember that happening later. But that's it. That happens. That happens. Anyway, moving on. Having your entire life flipped on its head because the god you were loyal to threw you into the rift when you were sick, and then having that god descend and do a real number on you as well. Capuchow's realm / domain, as I really love calling him, currently referred to Capuchow's lair for the time being, lands up. Okay, I definitely heard a bird that time. Lands up replacing the god complex in the campaign van after Hector descends, since that would have been an important location to Capochin due to his ascent, but due to his devotion to Inspector. Since that would have been an important location to Capochin due to his devotion to Inspector. Did you notice that rhymes? I had to say it again because I fucked up a little bit. I fucked up a little bit again, but did you notice? I sort of noticed earlier when I was reading that line out loud to myself, but well, there's a little bit more of a note on that. If Hector hadn't stepped down, Capuchow's lair likely would have been an extension / expansion of the god complex itself. Very interesting. Okay. Anyway, I do think the lair could look an awful lot like the complex, due to replacing it. To the point, it could almost be its reflection, but it would still be different enough due to an entirely new god with an entirely new realm taking its place. In my mind, it looks similar enough, but it's definitely like you look at it and you're like, this is Capuchow's lair, not the god complex. That's gone now. In my brain, it looks similar enough, but that's just like an idea so far. I don't know if I'm changing that. I might change it, but I mostly just want to give Capuchow a big hole to duck down and hide him. Have folks stand on the ledge when they talk to him. Not sure if it would work with the reflection of the God complex concept, but it is an idea. I want to give him a hole so we can hide in it like a big old groundhog. You know what I mean? Have him just poke his head out and be like, hey. Capuchow periodically attempted to get up while recovering, despite his body often feeling far too heavy. He thought that made him appear lazy. In the brackets I included, he did not appear that way. That's sort of my favorite part of this whole lore document I made. It's just that it says he thought that it made him appear lazy. Me very clearly. He did not appear that way, much to his own belief. He does not. The people understand that he is not being lazy. He just does not feel good. As mentioned here in this next note, actually, Capuchow doesn't feel well a lot of the time. He feels like he has something rotting and burning in his chest where his heart should be. The pain is eased and barely there when he's happy or content, but it feels plain awful when he's upset to any capacity. So, like, if he's mad, it hurts. If he's, like, I don't know, wallowing in his own agony, it definitely hurts. He just does not. He just feels worse You know, when he's upset. You know, he just does not feel great. Poor man. Connected to the pit in his chest and his emotional state is the ability to breathe smoke and fire. Smoke may billow from his mouth when he's angry, and he may spew fire if he's pushed enough to do it. His smoke likely smells awful, though that is probably to be expected. I imagine it feels pretty close, smells pretty close to burning rubber, which is probably especially bad when he chooses to blow smoke at someone when he's annoyed with them. You know, like, hey man, can I borrow a cigarette? Shut the fuck up! You know what I mean? It smells bad. It's bad. And it's hard to breathe around sometimes if he's filled with too much smoke. Anyway, if he were to wallow in his own agony for longer than he should, lava would start leaking from his mouth because of the fiery, rotten thing in his chest. And my only excuse for that is that the pain has to come out somehow. Does it work? Likely not, but it still happens anyway. And you must be wondering, how long would be longer than he should? Well, it would take a few days of wallowing in his own agony, self-loathing, whatever else he's got going on, before he starts leaking lava from his mouth. I also included a note that reads, "Don't worry about it, it's fine and normal." I would probably freak him out because it's lava coming out of his mouth. At least 1, 2, 3, 5 question marks after that. A related note, a related subject. I like to imagine that Capochin would vomit lava if he gets too overwhelmed. Why? I don't know. He's a god. His body does weird god things now, and it's funny just to imagine. Oh no, it's actually rather. I say it's funny when you really put a lot of thought into it. It's not funny. It's terrifying. That's lava out of his mouth hole. You know what I mean? That's just lava out of his face. His darling baby face. I don't know. I'm sorry. He's so much more older than me. I think if this was possible, it would drive him nuts if someone would talk about him like that. But I don't care. Anyway, yeah, it's just an interesting visual just to have him puke lava. Now it's just like, I guess this is happening. This might as well happen. But I'm sorry about joking, man. I'm sorry if that's uncomfortable, but I at least remembered to include the warning from earlier, so hope you stayed safe and you were bracing yourself the whole time. Anyway, going. Combined with Capochin's continuous attempts to get up during his recovery, I do imagine that was when he would have first found out he could breathe fire/smoke, growing increasingly more and more upset with himself for being unable to get up when he really should be resting. Miss Mitternacht coincidentally visits him during one of the events in which that especially got bad. He was not pleased, but at least he was not alone, even if she wasn't the person he really wanted around then. King was also there. King was especially who he did not want right around then, since they ascended roughly around the same time, and yet he still couldn't move. You know, I imagine with Capochin being the way that he is, it's just like sort of hard for him to like overwrite who he is as a person. It's just like, I'm on the ground, you know? I can't move. I want to move. I'm not a lazy pup. Or something like that. I ain't nobody's dog. I say as though I did not give him some very intentional dog elements. As though he is a little bit of a freak with it. Anyway, he probably bites him a little bit that, he can't get up, he can't move around and stuff because King's doing it. He's ended at very similar times. Same day, same day. How come King gets to get up and move around? Anyway. You're not lazy. Simply because you're not able-bodied, Capochin. Gee, many cricket. That seems like a bit of a joke. I might talk about that more if I remember. Yeah, I might bring it up later. No. On the subject, visiting him during the events in which this especially gets bad, Hector finally visited him during a second time that happened. The overall rough week Capochin would have been having at that point, and the roller coaster of emotions he's been on, does eventually start crying. No? No. On one hand, upon seeing Hector again after everything, and finally having the chance to process that he's mortal again, Capochin was hit with the realization that this is their situation now, and it's not one they can undo. Capochin could very well die upon descending. Hector might very well spiral at some point upon ascending again. So, that man, he's, he really meant it when he said permanently, so. Jesus Christ, that's not a bird, that's a house settling. Something, it's a house. Jimmy Cricket. Don't worry about it. On the other hand, Hector is finally visiting him again after what feels like a long time passing, and Capochin has certainly been wanting his presence there, especially since he thought Hector might have been abandoning him. All in all, everything sort of just comes crashing down on him like a tidal wave. Though he might be embarrassed about it later, he falls apart. Which, understandably, might be painful and even more guilt-inducing for Hector from his perspective. From his perspective, he's been feeling very conflicted about forcing ascension on Capochin and trying to wrangle himself into visiting Capochin for a while, actually to check in on him on how he's doing. When he finally does visit, the guy starts crying upon seeing him. Like, he hasn't seen you in a while. The first word he said as a god is your name. He sees you and he starts crying. If that doesn't make him feel guilty, I don't know what does. I would say you, but some people might have low empathy, and that's okay. So, I'm going to be a little inclusive. Here. Alright, moving on. Capochin certainly has some thoughts on his own ascension, being that he has no idea how he's meant to feel about this or what he's meant to do now. I think he'd eventually be forced to think about everything now that he has time to slow down and considering everything that's happened. Hector / Inspecta did, what he himself did, what he ever meant to Inspecta. Clearly a lot, though Capochin felt more like he was forcing the guy to look after him with dead stunt, getting sick. Kind of bozo does that to his boss. My favorite note here is Viviano. Viviano continues to have very good priorities. He thinks Capochin got X notes. Even hotter upon the ascension. That's just really fucking funny just to have that there. So we also got some little fun little design elements, like his hair. You might be noticing from like a Capochin's sprites here, Capochin's sprites here, that his hair sort of moves, right? Like, it's a little bit more raised up, I think. Yeah. Capochin's hair, like his ears, can move based on certain moods and expressions. When he feels threatened for any reason, it may flare out similarly to the hood of a cobra. Imagine it also does this when he's feeling a bit prideful. So like that's why it sort of like lifts up a bit. That's clear when he's like, yapping like this. It's like, yeah, what's up? You don't talk like that. What's up? I'm a little bitch. Hey, look at me, I'm Capochin. Look at me, I'm talking to myself here. Hey, forget about it. Sorry. I do have like some other sprites here I can show you. Hold on. It won't work from here. I have to get closer to this. Hi, hello. Sorry, that might be a bit much. Target audience, me. So, muted. Hair down, tails wrapped around himself. There's a note here reading that both of his tails are prehensile, which means he could hypothetically grab things with them if he wanted to. And he tends to wrap them around himself when he needs it. Like, he's experienced, he's a bit overwhelmed, a little bit little bit of a verbal shutdown or something. So that's what I had in mind when I was designing this, right? So, yeah. There's a note reading here for Capochin that he hates his own collar. It's big, it's clunky, and it restricts certain head movements. He is forced to get used to it, and can even tuck his head partway down into it if he's feeling especially downtrodden. Do I know it restricts his head movements? You don't think I would know that from experience? Anyway, he is meant to have dog, dragon, and snake symbolism wrapped into it. If not that, then just design elements. I do imagine he still has that worm on his head you can find when you make him bald in the game. But not separate him from the now divine worm. Also, his head looked weird without it there. So, yeah, one of his reference sheets just like contains like an alternate version of his reference sheet without his hair and his ears. I think bald as no, maybe his ears are there. No, I think his ears are there. Let me check. All right, I removed his ears just to show you what he looks like without his ears in the way of his hair. So yeah, no, he does have both his tails and his ears. So there's just an alternate version of his bald one without the worm there, and it just looks weird. Where's your worm, buddy? Where's your worm? Oh, there you go. There's a worm. There was a worm. Oh, there is a worm. I took away your worm, Capochin. Fuck you. There are some more notes, but that's about this Ayu's take on Specta, or Zero Spec, as I like to call him when we're talking about the Spectiverse in the server I'm in. He has a glow. I will let you know. I might just put I don't know how long this is. I might not know where I am at this point. But you can find it on my. I have Tumblr, Electro's I stick on Tumblr. There's also a blog for the AU. It's Sickness of the Grove. You can look. I'll likely link it in the description if I remember. But you can find it there, so you can go and look at Zero Spec. But I got tired of trying to emulate his. You know what? I'll just read them. But anyway, I got tired of trying to copy / emulate Inspecta's cannon hat, so I just took N's hat for murder drones and made a version of it for Inspecta. I'm aware there are hats like that in general, but I was very specifically inspired by N's hat. Was this a take where I mentioned the murder recap stuff? I don't know. I'm a Murder Drones fan. So we're still remaining a fan of that. I was able to just be like, you know what? I'm tired of drawing your stupid boxy hat. Have a version of Ed's hat. There are no buttons on his cloak. I wrote that. I forgot he had buttons on his cloak. Apparently, I forgot to include them. Respect just doesn't have them, Lamau. Alright. I'm not gonna read out this note because that requires a visual and I don't like putting them on screen. Yeah. Eye shine disappears when stressed, angry, tired, or even having a manic episode. No shine and eye shine are meant to match or be the same color. Eye away hairs would only likely be drawn when the Specta's eye shine is missing. And this Specta has gloves on them. They are a yellowed off-white with red cuffs with golden buttons on them. I think I found where his buttons went, but Specta's gloves are a somewhat later addition, as he does not start off having them in the AU itself. I imagine that he lands up getting them sometime after it's made clear to him that Capochin is sick, and in all likelihood would not actually be actively brought up. For those of you who are just like, I have chosen to continue listening to this little bitch on the internet talk about their AU, and like, I don't know why you would bring that up. I'm just sort of like learning about Capochin Zero right now. There is such a thing on the Sickness of the Grove blog referred to as Spectalogs. I'm recording Spectalogs. I voice Zero Spec. And my method act, I'm sort of like walking around my room, putting my face up to a mic, tapping my hands and stuff like that. I method act a lot. You can even hear me typing on my keyboard as Zero Spec. So, yeah. Interesting note I would like to bring up. Since in the very first recording for the very first Inspectalog, you can hear me. I very clearly don't have any gloves on. So what I want to do later is that I just sort of want to, like, I do have my own gloves. I want to put them on so I can just clap. And you're not like, whoa, is he meant to have gloves on right now? And you not hear. Oh, I just want to be a little bit more fitting, a little bit more makes sense. I don't want anyone to be like blindsided by the fact that I forgot this one crucial detail. So, in my brain, I wanted to originally be him just be like, "Hey, Cappy, back there here. Look at my gloves. You like them?" No, I just want him to have him. He'll probably have done that off screen. At that point, Capochin already knows that he's got that Specta's got some gloves on, so he won't be like, "Hey, look at my gloves! I'm showing you for the first time while we recording. Yeah, look at my hand." So no, I don't want to do that. this part of the video. No, I know it's not done yet. What? I got some additional notes that I have not included in the document yet. At this point of recording, it might be there now. Probably, I don't know. At this point, I really don't know. But I'm still gonna talk about it right now. I'm gonna brainstorm. Not in real time since this is a recording, but it is going to be largely unedited. So I'm not allowed to say stupid shit. Like about me. So Capuchin is a very fun character for me to work with. I know that he is Capochin. I know who he is. He's just that character, but I put like a different coat of paint on him. You know, it's just Capochin, but that's the thing. It's still him. Thinking about him is just it's a very fun experience for me to do. You know what I mean? He is constantly on the brain of people who know me, who are very much enjoy Kappa Chow as much as I do. Know that I'm very frequently often thinking about him. So I could just be in a call with someone and I can be like, I'm thinking about Kappa Chow again, and then someone would likely go, yeah. So they know, I know, we all know. This guy constantly on my brain. A lot. A lot. So it's just I'm thinking about him is like very fun. And a lot of the time it can hurt. Just to like be like, oh damage, emotional damage, woe is me. Oh woe is me. Cause you've seen fucking with the cat ball at this point, right? I'm just I've got yeah, I've got him on screen right now, so I can see him talking when I do. So I'm just like gesturing at him. There is Kappa Chow. Yeah. Um, I want to bring up. Uh, him just his name in Kappa Chow. Like he is just Kappa Chow in the universe too. It's not just. I know. It feels like thanks for the obvious here, Captain Fuck, but it's not just a name that I use to differentiate, like, Capucho, the god, Capochin the god to Capochin the stinky little old man. He does, end up changing his name from Capochin to Capucho in universe, and I told him this morning, like, last night, rather, I did not really think about that. Like, um, there is an in-universe explanation as to why he goes by Capucho now. External reason, the true reason as to why I call him Capucho, I named him after the 2 times I accidentally called Capochin that. Like, Capucho. What? I will let you know that it's gotten worse since I've named Capucho that. Like, randomly call is Capucho Capochin when I'm really meaning to talk about a Capucho, or I'll call Capochin himself just Capucho. They are the same entity. it doesn't help that it doesn't really help that they're the same person, you know? Capochin the god, Capochin the mortal. Capochin the loyalist little dog. I, in universe, there is likely a reason as to why he would have changed his name, because he feels like the person to me who was just like, I'm Capochin, second in command of the busy boys on the surface, the best, the prettiest, the handsomest. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm Capochin. Ain't no doubt about it. You know it, I know it. It feels like, because I only started thinking about that because I bumped into like a Hugo's post, or like someone on Tumblr asked him about the names. It was like, why is King still King, right? What's up with everybody else's names? It's just like um how I've sort of thought about it, like a reflection of them. You know, like if they're especially confident in themselves, they will just keep their name. Like uh I think Mitternach and King, I believe, if I remember correctly. I know it was yesterday at this point for me, but still. Thespius Green is a stage name. Click Clack is just onomatopoeia. Honestly, I think that's just the reasoning for it. Like Click Clack, the sounds I make on Georgia. Call me Click Clack the way I click on this clack. But still, um, I think they could really tie into the fact that, you know, Capochow does not really look like himself. Capochow does not look 100% like a potion. That's obvious. Look at him. Look at this man. Dog-like ears. For some reason, called sausages. Uh, Hair is different. He's got two tails. His stomach's caved in. His forearms are like thick. Fuck. Right? He does not look like a potion anymore. And I imagine if you've had like 50 or so years to get used to the body you're in, you know, like suddenly having this entire body, you know, like it's unfamiliar to you now. You know? It's like you weren't prepared for it, so you weren't like, oh, I'm going in, I know exactly what I'm getting into. No, he had no say in it. Sort of, this fucks me up. It's like he didn't have a say in it. And like, his body just sort of doesn't feel like what he's gotten used to. But I imagine that he's still like, you know, like, is he? He's a little bit more coordinated with what he can really get up. You know, like recovered enough to be able to get up. You know, and he's a little bit clumsy and uncoordinated. But once he's like confident in that he can really get up and walk around and stuff like that, like he'd just be like, "Yeah, I'm still Capochin. What's up, everybody?" But here's the thing. You know, I've been sort of redrawing his, you know, some of his expressions in the game. You know, like with Capochow, I've just looked at comparing them. You can definitely tell that it's still Capochin. You look at him, you see him. That's still his face. It's just that it is different. It's Capochin. You know it's Capochin. But like, you know what I mean? His features are definitely different. His nose, his eyes, his ears, his hair to some degree. You know what I mean? That's just a different face that's looking back at him. You know, like, he gets a glimpse of his face for the first time. You know? He doesn't fully recognize who's looking back at him. That's not his face. His head is taller, a bit thinner. These spots are gone. His nose is bigger, different, longer eyelashes. His eyes, even his eyes are different. Like, yeah, you see what I mean? His eyes are different. He is, don't stop, a different looking person. It's still him. It just sort of doesn't feel like him anymore. And then he sort of just loses that whole, like, I'm Capochin. Because he doesn't look like Capochin. He looks like someone else. You know, it's still him. Even I made a little bit of a voice edit of a little bit of his little sound, his little GGG speak or whatever, his little dialogue noises. Even his voice actually sounds different. It's deeper and layered because I think it sounds cool, and every once in a while, play back. I actually can like play it back right now, and you can't hear it for some reason. So I'm gonna fucking look for it. You can just play the sound, and you can hear it. It's staring me at the face. So here's what he sounds like, and hear what his god. Here's what Capochin sounds like for frame of reference, and here's what Capuchow sounds like. Very different, yeah? That's. He sounds different. He looks different. He is still him. He's different. So I think like once he sees his own face, he realizes he doesn't look like 100% like him like he used to. He sort of just like loses that desire to continue calling himself Capochin. He sort of like I don't know why Capuchow specifically. I personally just like the sound, how it sounds, but I think he just sort of goes with like a different name that it still got the cap in there. You could still call him Cappy if you wanted to. You don't got the Ochin anymore. You got Capuchow. Yeah, that fucks me up a bit. Oh man. It really does. Cause like, man. That's like the in-universe explanation of it. External truth is just I kept calling him that by accident, so that's his name now. And then the universe is just like very tragic. Oh man, it's because of this, it's because of that. I was like, damn it, man. Yeah. On the subject of his expressions, he does have one. I mean, there are variants of like very different expressions that he has. Like for the little dot eyes that he has, like I made two variants, one with his ears up and one with his ears down. But yeah, uh, one of the unique expressions that he has is just it's just him dissociating. To be honest with you, it's just him with eyes wide, and I actually could show you right now. That's his sort of his deafened sprite that I've got for my little active thing. It's the one with the most sprites, since I've decided that his eye twitches a bit, and his irises and pupils move, but that's just that's just it. Uh, on a similar on like a that just sort of reminds me. I want to bring this up. Capuchero's ascension is in no way meant to fix all of his problems. You know, it does not fix all of his problems. And in fact, I think it gives him new ones. Like, like he's gotten comfortable with who he is, but now he has to like do that all over. Do that all over again, I think. Because he's a god now. He's gonna last for a long time, unfortunately, for probably him, I think. I don't know. I think he was like okay with like being a more in my brain, Capochin just seems like a guy who's like, yeah, godhood is a thing, but I'm okay just being me. So this fucks me up. You tell when my throat's getting a little bit hoarse. I should probably stop doing this at some point, but yeah. Man, this fucks me up. Yeah. As I say, it does not fix any of his issues. It's sort of just like it's not like, well, how I've ascended into godhood. Look at me, I'm able-bodied again. No. You know what I mean? No, he is never going to be like how he used to be. And I think that's like a very important note, especially considering that if Capochin descends, he'll die. Oh, something just happened. You didn't see that. I'm on OBS now. Whoa. Anyway, if he ever descends, he'll just die. Stop. Even if he had the choice to immediately descend, he'd be dead. 33 years later, if he descends, he's just dead. Dead. Dead all around, dead. That's a dead Chow right there. Capochin. I don't even know what I mean. But still. So it's like, yeah, he at least has eternity to get used to being Capochin. But whoa, it sort of fucks me up when I think about it. I would imagine that ascending from for him ascending from second in command of the Busy Boys on the surface, as he says, just an unprepared god is different, especially with people like not trusting him because of the whole Inspector debacle, which is what I'm choosing to call it. It's like it was a situation. It was not a good situation. I know this is an rated E for everybody funny cartoon game. My brain keeps going in circles, but when you think about it, when you think about it realistically, right? If you sit down with me and think about it realistically, the way I'm doing, right? And put it in reality. It is a fucked up situation. There's no sugarcoating it. This whole thing is a rough situation, especially for Capochin/Capochin. Everything sucks. I'm not letting you forget that at its core, it is an infection at you. So people are going to get sick, and people are likely infected, and it's gonna spread. Capochin, like trying to prove, like he can. It's not even though he wasn't like anyone's pick, even though he wasn't anyone's choice, he can be useful now. He is useful. He's the god of something. We'll figure that out later. He doesn't know yet exactly, but it seems to be that he is the god of illness, probably. I mean, he is pretty sick. Sick as a dog all the time. this man is never gonna cough normally ever again. He, he's just a sick, very sickly god because, again, Ascension did not fix all of his problems. Yeah, he gets tired, fatigued a lot more easy. He needs to lay down a lot, gets really bad headaches, dissociates a lot. His focus is shot to hell. Or I guess you would say shot to drain, but shot to hell is fun for me to say, so I'm going to keep saying it. Um, think about that. He is just never gonna be who he once was again. And I imagine that there's, he's probably just had to grieve, himself, who he once was, who he used to be, because he's the same man. But at the same time, is he really? He's someone else now. He's not Capochin. He's Capochin. What does that mean for him? It's fucked up. It's fucked. Oh, it fucks me up. Love him. Can you tell why I think about him often? I even went so far as to make, like, my own little skin to wear as him in a game I play. If you know, you know. I'm not delving into it, but it's just, I love this guy. I love, the situation, the circumstances, especially with Spectre/Inspector, right? Like, that's a very nuanced, complicated relationship those two have. And I think it gets even more nuanced and complicated here, right? Because it's like, it's not black and white. It's a variety of different colors with this character. It's and the post game, everything could really happen. Could he hate Hector? Could he like forgive him? I don't know. Anything could happen. And that's fun. It's just like thinking about the nuance, the history, like everything that could happen. Is just so fascinating, I guess you could say. And that's why I love thinking about it. And I love thinking about Apachow. Like, it's just a lot that's going on for him. Yeah, he has to grieve who he was. He has to, like, get used to who he is. He's looked into his own reflection and could not recognize the man staring back 100%. Like, there's so much I could say. There's so much I want to say, but it feels like I'm going in circles when I talk about him. Like, I love him that much. So, yeah. He is the god of illness and loyalty, but he was loyal to one specific god. With that god descended, who is he supposed to be loyal to, right? Like, it's thoughts like that. It's thought like that. And if you're drawing, and if you've stopped drawing to put your head in your hands, I'm sorry. I don't know if you put this on in the background to listen to. If you were, hi. I know that I have to do stuff sometimes, walk around, do stuff to listen to, like, especially long recordings like this, but still, he makes me ill. He plagues me. He infects me. He makes me sick. Everything I could say, it just feels like a dig at him. God of illness. He makes me ill. You know what I mean? So, and he gets fatigued easy. He gets tired easy. It's hard to focus. I mentioned that. Sometimes it's hard for him to breathe around the smoke. He's mad. It's just like his lungs just full of smoke when he's angry. He's upset. It's hard for him to breathe around that. It's very different from cigarette smoke, I'll tell you that much. It's just something else in him. It probably maybe gets winded easy too. I don't know. I'm that's on the the cutting room floor. I think that's how that sentence goes. That's saying. If it doesn't, I'm not looking into it right now, but yeah, you get what I mean. But Capochin, we're really in it now, aren't we? Another thing that I frequently think about is just the fact that he will likely outlive everyone he currently cares about in the Grove. He'll likely have, it's like, their gods, I imagine, especially like, with Mitternach and Bauhauso being the oldest gods, two of the oldest gods, like, they've been around for a while, right? All of them have been around for a while. Capochin is new. Inspector was only there for 33 years. But, so Inspector, there's also Calvagale. Hi, Calvagale, we love you. But for a lot of them, except for Inspector, they've likely had time to, maybe not Calvagale either. Huh. Never mind. We're taking her off the board for a little bit. No, we'll put her in the baby pile. But for a lot of them, they've probably had time to get used to the fact that, mortals that they care about, they will likely never see again when they pass away. One day they'll die, and that's it. You'll never be able to talk to them again. Capochin is likely new to this whole prospect. He hasn't had time probably to get used to it yet. I would imagine. I think about it, the fact that he'd likely outlive everyone he cares about, Hector especially, and I don't know, because of this game I was playing, for no fucking particular reason, my brain just connects the dots. This was before I made that skin. It's so clear. I played a game. I was building a little house. You'll probably be able to connect the dots the more I talk about it. I'm just letting you figure out what game I'm talking about because it's funny. Solve the mystery, busy boy. Anyway, I was playing this game where I was building a house. As the sun began to set. I went back inside my house. I noticed a little villager in my house. I was like, "What are you doing in here? This is my house. Get out of my bed." I decided that if the little villager guy was gonna keep doing that, I would, make a guest bed for him to walk in, hang out and do stuff. He's gonna take my bed and come in here at night. Fine, I'll just give him his own bed. And so eventually, I did give the villager a bed. And so he would just come run into my house at night, and he'd pick which bed he wanted to sleep in, and then I'd sleep in the other one. I know he's a program, but I don't care. Afterward, eventually it sort of became a little bit of a fun little thing for me just to stand on top of my houses, especially as I was building it. I still do it now. I made a little spot for me to walk up and keep doing it. The point is I would stand on top of my house, watch this little villager run over to my house, and then go inside. And like that would be a thing every night. For one night, however, I stood on top of the house, and I did not see the little villager I'm running in. So, as the night approached, I decided that I'd have to go to bed without him being there. The next night, I stood on top of the house. He still did not come running. And for some reason, it made me think about, like, Capochin again, because, I love Capochin. It made me think about him. Like, one day, maybe people he knows and cared about, Hector especially, like, just about Hector in general. Hector one day would stop coming to visit him, and maybe, even though Capochin would likely, like, he'd know at this point, Hector is never coming back. He is gone now. Maybe a part of him just keeps waiting for him. Keeps just waiting for him. Come on over and visit him and in his lair. Right? And he never will, because he's gone. And it fucks me up. I like thinking about him and these things because his circumstances, right? It's tragic when you really think about it. And like, he'll outlive everyone he currently cares about in the Grove, everyone he's ever loved and known in the Grove. There'll be new people coming around. There'll be new people to see, to provide guidance for. Right? But he'll just have this whole, this part of him that is empty, that just will forever miss Hector, right? Especially Hector. With a history like that, as nuanced, as complicated as it is, these two are just, whoa. You know what I mean? So he cares very deeply. They likely did. They care. All right. In my little brain, they care a lot. It takes some time to probably work for the forgiveness, but that's okay. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Sick. Make me sick. Oh, I love them. Here is a little bit of a note that I want to share with you. Which just sort of has not been included in my notes as of yet. But I think. Capochin's eyes and teeth glow in the dark. That is apparently something that I gave Inspecta as well. I like to imagine that a lot of Capochin's design elements, like the yellow accents and stuff, are like meant to match Inspecta to some degree. I would have probably made them inverted colors, but I didn't feel like it. And also, I need you to know that the yellow and the green of his big old coat, his eyelashes, and his tongue here, they are actually just colors that I used for the snot leaking out of his nose in one of the very first drawing I did for Capochin Zero. So, big old snotty man. Right, and I wanted to use those colors because these are good colors. These are good colors, but it is fucking terrible to admit to people. So I'm sorry. Regardless, though, his eyes and teeth glow like inspectors, but I like to imagine that they would dim based on like how he's feeling. Like if he feels a lot more hollow, right, his eyes would dim. If he's like angry, they would definitely be glowing. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. No, yeah. Let me a minute. Let me just be real here. Yes, they would. He could smile in the dark and it'd be creepy. Inspector could do the same thing. Terrifying. Like, quit looking at me with them big old eyes. I have a sketch where his Capuchin's eyes are doing the same thing that Inspector's was in like I don't know, final his boss fight, I guess. You know, I don't know if I want to continue with that idea. I like the idea, but I don't know. Think about it. But yeah, I think with him, grieving with this big hole in him, his eyes would just be pitch black. In my head, that's just how he looks, and it's like, oh, buddy. And it hurts. It hurts very deeply. Oh. I think that's currently it so far that I really, really wanted to talk about. I had something that I wanted to do, but I sort of got sidetracked by recording all of this. So, I want to thank you for listening to all of this. And it was certainly something, and I'd like to keep talking about it more. My head sort of hurts, and I need to relax my voice. I've been going on for too long. Big dog. So I wanna thank you once again for watching all of this. And feel grateful that there are people who just listen to me yak and yap for this long, right? So listen to Captcha Rocco so bad that this is my Discord avatar. Someone I know. Well, let me move to my. I can't move to my. My other little spot right now. Apparently, I did something and it won't let me move there. But you know, wait. No, I can't. Nuts. So this is drawn by Hunter of the Edge on Tumblr. Love you, Hunter. You're a wacky wild guy, but still, thank you. Anyway. Oh, and it goes so bad that I made a skin in that game I talked about. You probably know by now. Anyway, you know what? I love you folks. I'm gonna give my voice a break now.